Alright, so we're here now in a place that nobody really thought we were going to be, because just a couple of months ago, the conversation was, would the Warriors be able to keep this team together forever? You know, would they be able to keep Klay Thompson? Is he going to leave in free agency one day? Draymond Green wants a hell of a lot of money the last time I checked. Is he going to be able to stay, and are they going to keep just the four that they had together? And about 48 hours ago, we had another All-Star join the team, which is something I don't think anybody ever thought was possible. But I'm off that now. You know, it is what it is. It happened. We understand the NBA it's in a bad place right now. So now I'm more looking towards the future, because this super team thing has only gotten worse. It's like a snowball. Like, first it was the Heat, and that was a thing, and then it became the Warriors, and now you have the second version of the Warriors. Like, it just keeps getting worse and worse. So that made me start thinking, well, should the NBA step in and do something about competition? Because you have to admit, even if you're going to watch the NBA season next year, it really hasn't been that fun in the last 2 years. With Kevin Durant on the Warriors, we were all able to call them as champions the last 2 years. We knew that was going to happen. And then now they add Cousins, which means they have a roster that we haven't seen in NBA history. We haven't seen a legitimate Team USA lineup in the NBA in history. That's never happened before. Like an entire starting five. But as I was asking myself this question, I was thinking, you know what? Before we even talk about if the NBA should step in and do something about competition, ask yourself, would they ever do that? Because when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, a lot of people said they were never going to watch basketball again. They said, competition is officially ruined and I don't want any part of this. Yet the numbers show that NBA ratings have actually went up. As a matter of fact, I believe in one of the last 2 seasons, I think it was as high as it had ever been or something like that. It was setting records. And the reason is, it's the same reason that trolls are famous and all these people that shouldn't have fame today. It's because nobody can look away from a train wreck. And although the competition in the NBA is a train wreck, nobody can look away when you have a Kevin Durant playing with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. People just want to see how that turned out. And the thing that we already know is going to happen is, now with Cousins on the Warriors, people are going to want to see how that turned out, because it's something that's never happened before. We've never seen an all-star, a 5 all-star lineup, and not just any type of all-stars, right? We're talking about 3 legitimate superstars, and then Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, those are the other 2 all-stars. People are going to want to see and tune in and watch how that pans out. So if you're the NBA looking at this as a business thing, and ratings go up or they stay the same, or they do anything other than go down, I highly doubt that they're going to step in with some kind of rules about competition, because if it's working, then in their perspective, why would they fix it? And it sucks, because when people choose to make false equivalencies and they look at this whole situation very vaguely, they can make the argument that the NBA has never had parity and that a few teams always run everything. And they can go all the way back to the 60s for their evidence, where the Celtics and Lakers owned everything. The 80s, where the Celtics and Lakers won pretty much, 7 of those titles, I think, in that decade. Then the Bulls owning the entire 90s. And then the few teams that have even won championships in the 2000s, they can always look at that and say, well, you guys are complaining about the Warriors, but what competition has there ever been? And that argument pisses me off. I saw it on Twitter this morning, and it's like, that's not even close to the same thing. When the Bulls were running the 90s, you might not know it if you haven't went back and read about it or studied it, but yeah, they were definitely the best team with the best player, but they still looked every year like they could lose. There was a year when they were down to the Knicks, actually. They were down 0-2. If you look at most of their finals wins, the other team pretty much always won 2 games, right? The Jazz, the Sonics, the Blazers, pretty much everybody always won games against them. It wasn't like it is with the Warriors, where maybe you get lucky and have a series like the Rockets once in a blue moon where they almost lose, and that happened when they were missing one of their key players anyway, so what does that really mean? And it's also not the same when you look at it from a personnel standpoint. When you talk about having 2 players that could easily win Finals MVP, and then still having a player that you consider the best at his position, the personnel is just never like this. So let's say the NBA stepped in and they did do something about competition, or they wanted to do something about the competition. What would they even do? I was talking to my dad about it, and I asked, what if they created like a market value for certain players? What if they made it so if a player has a stat line that looks a certain way with the points and rebounds and assists, it looks a certain way, then there's a limit to how low they can go on their contract. And of course, that's just throwing ideas out there, because there's many reasons why that wouldn't work. One of those being, which my dad brought up, that you can't really tell somebody how much money they can't take, right? You can't tell DeMarcus Cousins or another superstar, nah, you can't play for a certain amount of money. You can't take a pay cut to go where you want, because then you're impeding on free agency and the whole free agent process, and the NBPA would definitely get on them about that. There's just no way that would work. But the reason I even threw that idea out there is because DeMarcus Cousins has now not created a loophole, but he's become the first superstar to use this loophole. And who's to say that other superstars aren't going to use this in the future? Look, I don't care if you think he wasn't offered money by other teams or whatever the whole situation is. I've seen tons of reports that he actually was offered by the Pelicans, but whatever the situation is, DeMarcus Cousins, there's no way you can convince me that he couldn't have got more than $5 million somewhere. I can't imagine that. And the thing is, money has gotten so crazy in the NBA, and players have been able to pad their bank accounts so much that who's to say in the future a superstar is not just going to do this for a season or two, where they say, you know what, I've made an incredible amount of money, I can live right now. It doesn't necessarily matter what my next contract is. If they want to win so badly, then a lot of moves that we always said were impossible because of money, those start becoming possible. All of a sudden, a team with 3 All-Stars or 4 All-Stars can sign another All-Star, even though their cap situation is crazy or they're paying into the luxury tax. If a player wants to use what I will now officially recognize as the Cousins loophole, then, you know, there you go right there. They can kill competition. They can do that now. That's something that might happen again in the future. And that goes back to the question of, should the NBA do anything about competition? Because it almost seems like anything they do might start impeding on the rights of players to go into a market and do whatever they want. Because that's what the whole point of free agency is. You check out the teams, you check out the money, and you make a decision, and it's personal. You do what you want to do. That's the whole point of free agency. But if the NBA starts putting stipulations on what teams can sign what type of players, then all of a sudden it's not free agency anymore. It's really not free agency at that point. So as fans, we say that we would love a league that is somewhat equal, where teams all have all-stars, and not every team in the NBA, that's impossible, but at least something like 2010 where 5 or 6 teams look like they could win the championship that year, and you really can't call it. We all love a league like that, but as long as we're watching and supporting a league like this, the NBA is not even going to think about stepping in and doing anything. And while I'm on the subject of actions that they might or might not make in the future, I've talked about conferences before. About a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I made a video about conferences and if the NBA should eliminate them. And I'm sad to say that actually would not alleviate this problem anymore. It would make the rest of the league a little bit more fun to watch in the playoffs. But the issue we have right now is if you do the 1-16 format, because I never talked about the actual issue with that. If you do the 1-16 format, the team that's in the 1 seed, it's designed so that they have the easiest possible walk to the NBA Finals. That's the way it works. That's pretty much how it works today, right? If you're the first seed in a conference, then you start out playing the worst team, and it builds up so that in the conference finals, it's supposedly the 2 best teams in the conference. Well, that factor is actually magnified if you were to do 1-16, because say the Warriors are probably going to be the first seed. They play the 16th team in the actual NBA playoffs, like overall, East or West. So they could start off by playing the worst team in the East, which is going to be a slaughter fest, and it just goes all the way up until they finally get to the finals. But it wouldn't do anything. My point is that it wouldn't do anything to make the Warriors' life harder or anything like that. It would make the rest of the league probably a little bit more competitive, but for the problem we have right now, it wouldn't fix much. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys today. Make sure to chime in with what you think. Do you think the NBA should step in and do something about competition? And if you think so, then what do you think they should do? What do you propose? Hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications on future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.